This is a quick reminder to anybody that cares to know. I want you to know that Yahaya Bello is still moving freely, despite enough evidence of embezzlement and corrupt practices. He's still moving freely without a sentence. I equally want to bring to your notice that the former MD of the NDDC has alleged Akpabio to be involved in a lot of corruptions and shady deals, and he's the Senate President of Nigeria today. I equally want to remind you of the fact that the person that came out at a point in time to say he doesn't believe in one Nigeria is now the president of one Nigeria. I equally want to remind you that the list of the sponsors of terrorism was made available to the past administration, and they are sitting on it, and the present administration is not doing anything about that. I equally want to remind you as well that the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs was alleged to be involved in corruption and shady deals, which resulted to her sacking. So I want to tell you that she was only sacked, but not indicted. I also want to remind you that the Boko Haram members have been pardoned by the federal government. But Nnamdi Kanu has been facing terrorism charge for years now, and he's yet to be sentenced, and he's yet to be pardoned as well. I want to remind you as well that farmers in remote villages are still paying tax for them to be able to go to farm. Farmers in the villages are still paying levies to bandits for them to be able to go to farm. I want to remind you as well that according to Amechi, that the problem between Fubara and Wike that gave birth to the state of emergency was nothing but a disagreement over sharing formula of state resources. I want to remind you as well that the people trying to form a new coalition, a new alliance, are nobody but former members of PDP and the APC. I want to remind you as well that El-Rufai was one of the major advocates of the Muslim ticket that gave birth to Tinubu. The same El-Rufai now is the major advocate of a coalition that will get rid of Tinubu. I want to remind you as well that some of the cleric scholars, the imams, are still preaching the message of fanaticism and hatred. And I also want to remind you that some of the pastors are still preaching the message of fraud, scam, and delusive prosperity. I also want to remind you that the bill to ban open grazing that is associated with a lot of atrocities and a lot of illegalities is still experiencing a setback in the Senate House. I also want to remind you that it's only the Senate President of Nigeria that can send prayers into people's accounts in order for them to enjoy their weekends. I want to remind you as well that some of the general overseers have built schools and universities out of common people money, out of their tithe and their offering that their children cannot attend. I want to remind you too as well that a good number of northerners believes that the Sharia is superior to the Constitution. I want to equally remind you that a lot of celebrities that the common man, we, have made millionaires and billionaires, are yet to lend their voice in regards to the atrocities and the bad happenings that is happening in the country at the moment. I want to bring to your notice as well that the soldiers and the security agencies are still complaining of being shortchanged by the system, and nothing is yet to be done about that. I equally want to remind you that slots are still being given to politicians and political office holders in regards to recruitment and a lot of other things. I equally want to remind you as well that you have a voice in the midst of all this, only if you believe. I want to remind you as well in the words of Mahatma Gandhi that said, gently you can shake the wall. But I equally want to remind you that we Nigerians are very good at forgetting things and pursuing mirage. And I also want to bring to your notice as well that a lot will not share this, will not make this go round, and will still keep pursuing the mirage. Prove me wrong.